Today we're going to be installing a Curt receiver hitch on a 2023 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon Far Out limited edition package. It is the 3-liter diesel. One kind of a note, when you do order things for these Jeeps, there's not a lot available for the 3-liter diesel or the 392 Hemi. But I have found, I've got a buddy of mine that's got the 392 Hemi. They are virtually identical. So a lot of the things I've added to this Jeep, the fender flares, the rock sliders, the mud flaps, just other equipment I've added, I actually ordered for a 392 Hemi Wrangler. They fit the 3-liter diesel. So don't believe a lot of what you read. They are very similar. This hitch was for a Hemi, because they don't offer it for the 3-liter diesel, but it will fit under this Jeep. So be aware of what you're ordering. Also, you've got the instruction manual, and what guys need instructions, right? Don't need those. This hitch was designed and built back in 2018. In fact, there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube showing you how to install that hitch on a 2018. This is a 2023. There are differences. They are not exactly what the instructions show. If you've got a newer model, say probably a 20 on up, your instructions are similar, but there are differences, so be aware of that as well. It gives you a tool list of things you're going to need. One thing I noticed, your body panel clips that hold on your, whether you call that a skid plate or the lower fascia or whatever you want to call it, this plastic piece, they're different than what the instructions show. The push darts, I'll call them, are completely different than what the videos show you and what the instructions show you. They tell you in the instructions you can use a flat blade screwdriver or a panel tool. Well, I have lots of panel tools. They didn't work. Screwdriver's not going to work. I made my own tool to do this, and I'll show you how it works. Just get an old pair of needle nose pliers, something laying around that you don't care about. And what I actually did, and I don't know if you'll be able to see or not, we'll get a close-up on here. But if you look, I actually cut a groove at the very end of each one of these tips on the needle nose pliers. That way, when you remove those panel clips, you can actually reach up in with these pliers, get a hold of your panel clip, push dart, whatever you want to call it, and pull it straight out. And I'll show you how that works when we get that to that point. So like I said, just be aware there are some differences in the instruction manual and the videos that you watch on YouTube. They are not all the same. So right now we're in southeastern Idaho, and I love the videos that they've done. They're very informative, but they are in a pristine, beautiful shop. Epoxy floors, they're clean as a whistle. You could eat off the floors. They have a hydraulic lift to put the Jeep in the air. I'm a garage mechanic. I don't have any of that stuff. Probably 90% of us out there are going to be doing it the same way I am. It's cold, my floor is wet, it's mucky. This is how 90% of us are going to be doing work. Poor lighting conditions on a dirty, wet floor. So if you have a pristine shop with a lift, I'm jealous of you. That's great. I wish I had that, but I don't. So we're going to show you how to do this as a normal garage mechanic would do with general hand tools. Nothing fancy, nothing special. And like I said, we are in southeast Idaho. We do have 4 distinct seasons here. Almost winter, winter, still winter, and road construction. So I guess with that being said, the one item I do think would be very handy and useful is a pair of safety glasses. They want you to wear gloves and all this other, you know, protection, say personal PPE. When you're laying down underneath this, I have snow under there, there's sand, there's mud. You are going to have things falling on your face, falling in your eyes. So I do recommend the safety glasses. Gloves are optional, but enough of that. Let's get started on it. They send you the hitch right here. They send you a couple of little tabs. They don't really tell you what these are for. I will show you. There is a left and a right, so be aware of that. And then you've got some bolts and nuts and washers, and they call them all these technical terms in the instructions, but they really don't tell you what they are or really where they go. It's pretty simple. Backing plate with a square hole uses the bolt that has a square shaft at the head. Insert into the plate, there you go. Pretty simple. They do send you some fish wire to fish the bolts through. I'm hoping we don't use that. I've never used fish wire before. I'll use a magnet if I have to, but there you go. And then they give you a couple other bolts with some, I call it, they're nuts with teeth on the back of them, serrated teeth to lock them on. So that's pretty much the whole installation kit right there. So we're going to go ahead and do a couple of measurements. I want to find dead center on this skid plate. They do not show you in any of the videos or the instructions where to cut this out for your receiver tube. There needs to be a square hole cut because your receiver tube is going to be right here, right underneath that bumper. So you're going to have to cut that out. Well, the instructions say look at the diagram of how to cut that. There is no diagram. I also looked up on their website, same thing. It says refer to the diagram. There is no diagram. Every video out there that's on the internet does not show you how to cut that out. I have measured the front, and believe it or not, this little round indentation where your license plate goes, that is, believe it or not, dead center on the front of this Jeep. So what I've decided I'm going to do, cheap and simple, any tool a garage mechanic would have, I'm going to use a chalk line, but you could use a piece of string, anything you've got really. So what we're going to do, we're going to just hang this, almost like a plumb bob, off of the front of the Jeep. We're going to line that up with the very center of that indentation. Move it over right there when you got it on the center. Then I'm just going to take my thumb and push it straight in. Rub that chalk line a little bit, and it'll leave you a mark is right there on this. So now we know when we take this panel off and go to cut it for your tube, you've got a 2-inch square tube, so you've got center. If you go an inch this way and an inch that way, you've got your 2-inch hole for putting that tube through. The length of it, I am not sure yet. Because the way this goes back on, it doesn't just go straight up and in. It doesn't push in over the tube. You have to put it in at an angle and then swing the back end back under. So that tube is going to actually be, or the cutout for the tube is going to be actually a little bit bigger than the tube itself. I am not sure how much bigger. Might take a couple of cuts, trial and error to get it to fit, but that's where we'll go on that step. So right now we're going to remove this. So you're going to need a socket and a little handheld socket, little screwdriver with a socket on it. It is a 8mm socket, so you will need an 8mm, and your handy dandy homemade needle nose pliers that you made for doing this. There is that little push dart, and it is different than what the instructions show. It is different what the videos show. You cannot get a screwdriver in there. You cannot get a panel clip remover tool. When you come over here, there's more of them up in between the bumper and the skid plate, and they are a bugger to get to. You can see the little holes for them. So what I have devised, I'll try to hold this light for you so you can see. We're going to hold that right there if we can. What you need to do, take your pliers that you cut the groove in, you're going to reach up in here and you're going to get a hold of that. That pulls the center of it out. Now you're left with the push dart itself. And you don't want to dig around on them too much. They do have teeth in them, and there's only one way that push pin can go. With my pliers I made, there you go, pluck that right out. See how it's gone? And you're going to do that with every push pin, push dart, panel clip, whatever you want to call it. There's another one right here. Like I said, reach in. You can hook that with the groove that you cut in your needle nose pliers. Pull it straight out. Really, that's the simplest, easiest way to do this. And then you go back in, find the plug itself, pull it out. It's that simple. And you're going to have a whole row of them all the way across this front panel. When you get done with that, you're going to need that 8mm socket. On the back of your skid plate, there's a 8mm bolt or screw on this side, and on the driver's side there's two of them. They're just finger tight. Go ahead and unscrew them, one on each side. Already pre-marked it to cut our tube. We'll get to that later. So now what we have is this little protective cover right here. Go ahead and get your socket. It is a 5/8. And we're using hand tools. You can use your hammer drills if you've got them. You can use air tools. It's kind of overkill. There's no need. None of these seem to be very tight. On an older Jeep, there may be some rust concerns in that. You may have a harder time getting them off. But yeah, look at that. They're not that tight. So we're going to remove the two bolts that hold on this shield. Lift up and pull out, and there's the shield. Now, you are going to need to reuse, if you can see these little plastic or metal clips, you're going to need to take them off of this shield. You're going to be reusing them. They are your fascia tab for that skid plate, and all you're going to do is put these back on the smaller hole. You've got two holes, a bigger one, an upper hole and a lower hole. Your little metal clip will go down in that smaller hole. Like I said, there's a right and a left. The little tab here on the side faces in, so it will face towards the motor. That's how you know you've got right and left. So that's how they'll go. I'm going to take all of my fasteners and I'm just going to lay them out here close at hand so I don't have to keep crawling out from underneath the Jeep when I need something. 8 socket, because we are going to reuse the bolts that held on that cover plate. We're going to take the one here for the right. Like I said, it's got that little tab that faces to the inside. Going to go ahead, put that on the bolt. We're going to lift that back up into place. Put the bolt in. Okay, so once we have this factory bolt installed, you're going to look right up here at this hole. You're going to have to put the square plate with the bolt. It's going to go up through the frame like that. I've got a little half of a magnet. This is an extending magnet, but it's broke off. I've got plenty others, but you know what? We're in tight confines. This will work. So what I've done is put the magnet on the bolt itself. It's going to hold that square plate into place. We're just going to reach up through that hole like I was trying to show you before. Turn it. And there it is. Push it through with your finger. It's on. Through, in, whatever you'd like to call it. I'm going to put the nut on. And there you go. Little plate, your bolt through it. Now, this one's farther up in behind. And go ahead and put the nut on, finger tight. And now we're going to do the other side. We're just going to go ahead, torque those to, there you go, got a click. Do the other side. So we're going to have 4 bolts that we installed. We're going to go ahead and torque all 4 to 59 foot-pounds. Right there. And you're going to slide it on just like that. That's all you need to do. That way when you put that fascia back on, you've got the factory hardware to attach it. And what that does, that'll keep that fascia from flapping in the wind while you're driving it, because now it's still going to be hooked to the front, the top where it was on the bumper, and it's going to be connected at the rear in a factory location. So right here, there is a plastic tab. We're going to need to cut that off before we can do anything. So I've just got the DeWalt cutoff tool. We're going to go ahead and cut that off, and then we'll hold it back up and make some marks and measurements and get ready to cut the panel. Let's go in at an angle, slide back behind the bumper, and rotate back down into place. That is not going to happen with that gap there. You're not going to be able to cut a perfect rectangular hole out of here and just slide it right on. Won't happen. So what we're going to do is just cut this whole portion out from the top lip all the way down, across, and back up. Okay, so we've got that cut out. Basically right now, all we need to do, put that back in under the bumper, fold it in. That's your completed look. Go ahead and put your push darts back in, panel trim tabs, whatever you want to call them. Reinstall this fascia cover the way opposite of how we took it off. And there you go, complete.